Welcome to the Wealth Detective Podcast. Are you ready to become your own wealth detective, to find money in new ways and experience wealth like never before? Well, come along for some wild stories that will teach you, inspire you, maybe even shock you a little bit. And let's get ready to build wealth together. All right, welcome back. And thank you, as always, for being a faithful listener and sharing it with your friends, your family, and anyone else that could use a little more wealth in their life. Today, we are going to be talking about what do you do when what you want feels impossible? And I know a lot of you are feeling that recently, so you're not alone, okay? There's a podcast that I occasionally listen to. It's the Feminist Dating Show with Lily Womble, and I really like her stuff, so go check her out, especially if you are single and looking to date more. But I recently listened to a podcast, and I believe the title was something to the effect of, what do you do when you feel like dating someone or having a relationship is impossible? Like, how do you get over that? And so what she shared, and this is what I'm going to invite you to do. We're going to tweak it just a little bit into the context of money and wealth. However, it works with every aspect of life, okay? So first off, think of a situation right now that absolutely feels impossible, okay? And I know that you have one. And if you don't, you probably recently had one or will have one coming up pretty soon, okay? There's a lot of things in life that sometimes at some point feel impossible, okay? What you're going to do is I just opened up my phone, opened up the Notes app, and I put in there things that felt impossible but actually happened, okay? And you're going to list 10 experiences of past things that you felt were completely impossible, but then they actually happened and worked out, okay? And like I said, this can be with money, relationships, jobs, where you live, kids, all the things, okay? But you're going to list out 10 things. And here's the thing. I know sometimes when we hear something on a podcast or whatever, we're like, oh yeah, I'll just do it in my head. No, I'm actually being really dead serious. Go grab a piece of paper or grab your phone and list out 10 things that you felt were impossible, but ended up happening and were possible, okay? Then you're going to make another list underneath that of the 10 things you did that made those things possible. And I also want to say the 10 things you did and or the energy you were in, okay? Because a lot of times when we think, oh, well, I have to do all these like crazy hard things to make things happen, that's not the energy I'm saying to do it in. That's a very push energy. As I was making my list, I was like, well, pretty sure I was crying daily and doing breath work daily, and I was taking naps daily, and I was being lots kinder to myself, and I was resting more, and I was journaling more. Okay, those were the things. Oh, and I was doing my gratitude, list daily, and I kept showing up, and I kept believing. I kept the faith, even if it was small, even when I didn't fully believe, there was a small measure of hope in there that it was possible at some point. Okay, so that's what I'm meaning. So it doesn't even have to be like these specific steps. It can be. Some of them are. Maybe if it is that you're looking for a new house, it's like, great, go online, see what's available, start dreaming, start seeing what you actually would want in your house, what you would actually want, what area you would want to live in, what specific part of the city you want to live in, what type of home you want to live in. If it's dating, what are the characteristics that you're looking for? What are your non-negotiables? Do you have a preference on looks and height and appearance? Because you're allowed to, yes. And so those might be some of the things that you do, that you have on this list, okay? But what I want you to do is to now think of that situation that you're currently in and be like, okay, well, number one, I have evidence that the things that felt impossible actually are possible. Okay. So number one, we're going to just put that out there. Number two, you're then going to look at your second list and go, okay, so what am I not doing currently that if I were to do again could help bring that in closer and sooner and quicker and easier? And just pick one. Okay. Just pick one and be like, all right, I'm going to keep showing up, or I'm going to do breath work today, or I'm going to reach out to a community and get some support. Okay. And I say this because this is how you create the impossible. This is how you quote unquote quantum leap, which I don't always love that term because sometimes I'm like, well, that's a whole nother soapbox for another episode. But this is how you continue to move forward. This is how you continue to bring in the things that you really are desiring in your life. And now we're going to talk about timing. Okay. Because there is an aspect of, yes, you can bring things in faster and quicker and easier in your life. And there is an aspect of the right timing. Okay. And believe me, it is one of the most frustrating things in the world for most people. Okay. However, when you get very comfortable with trusting the timing of things, you, number one, reclaim your power, gain more power, have a lot less internal frustration, and then things usually come faster. Okay. So let me share a little story. So as most of you know, I recently purchased a home. Okay. Now I have been looking for homes for 15 plus years. Okay. In this area-ish, right? Okay. And it just has never worked out. But probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I found a home that I was in love with, you guys. It was so cute. It was an older home. It had all sorts of character. It was newly remodeled. So like it was absolutely gorgeous inside. It had a beautiful yard. At that time, my daughter lived with me full time and she was, wanting a dog. So I was like, great. We would have a yard. We would have, she can have her friends over and play and have the dog. It was like close to town, but kind of felt tucked away. It was close to a lake. I mean, like it just was like, in my mind, it was the perfect home. Okay. However, it was far out of my price range and like it ended up not working out. Okay. So it ended up not working out. But like for years, I would drive by that house and just be like, well, that was my home. Guess it's not my home. Okay. Sometimes I may or may not be dramatic, as I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, right? Okay. However, what's very interesting is the home that I just bought, I literally drive by this other home on a daily basis. And here's the interesting thing. They are doing construction and tearing it down. And because at first when I drove by, I was like, wow, that home just doesn't look like it's taken care of. Like, what is going on? And then about a month later, they started doing construction. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think they're getting rid of that house. They're probably expanding the road right into where that house is at. And the thought that I had was, I am so grateful I did not buy that home 6 or 7 years ago, because if it had been my dream home and I was having to move out of it in 6 to 7 years, I would have felt crushed. I would have felt so sad. Also, my daughter now lives full time with her dad. And so having the big yard that I would have had to have maintained, which yes, don't get me wrong, I would absolutely enjoy a yard. However, having to maintain it without the prospect of, children and a dog and, more people to enjoy that space, I was like, I'm really grateful that did not work out. Okay. This happens over and over and over to me. And I'm sure if you look at your life, you will be able to look back and say, oh, I'm really glad X, Y, or Z didn't happen because years later, I can now see it and I can understand why the timing didn't work out. Now, it doesn't necessarily make it easier in the moment when the impossible is really feeling really pretty damn impossible. Okay. So please validate yourself in that. Okay. However, that is partly how you work with time and how you come to trust time is you look back and you say, okay, obviously, if something isn't working out right now, how I feel like it should, or the timing that I feel like it should, I have lots of evidence in the past that when things were delayed or put off or didn't work out right, it worked out better for me. And it wasn't until years later that you're able to see that. So that's the next thing is that I want you to do. Write down 5 instances where the timing didn't work out how you wanted it to, yet it worked out better. Okay? Because, not only the fact that they're getting rid of that prior dream house, but if I had had a house the last 6-7 years, I would not have been able to travel the world and do a lot of the things that my heart had been desiring to do, which, there were a lot of things that shifted in my life that opened up those possibilities. However, one of them, it would have been a little bit harder to do that with a home. So like I said, get your paper out, your phone out, list the 10 things that have felt impossible in the past, but actually ended up being possible that worked out. Then you're going to write, what was I doing that allowed those things to become possible? You're going to write the 10 things. And again, it doesn't have to be all this push and force and things. It can be taking naps and resting and crying and being kind to yourself and finding community. Okay. And then you're going to write 5 things of, I'm really grateful that these 5 things didn't work out on my timeline because it ended up being better, even if it was years later. This is how you live in faith and trust and flow, because we don't know the timing. We don't always have all the information. We don't see the bigger picture. There are so many other moving pieces, and we know such a small little speck of perspective on things. And the more that we can remind ourselves of the evidence that these things always work out and that they will work out and that they will work out for the best, that is how you live happily in faith and in trust and in flow. So as you do this, I would love to hear about your experience, what came up for you, what shifted for you, and hopefully what started to happen and be possible for you because you dove into this. And just remember that your money and your Hell Yes life is out there. So we're going to find it together and have a beautiful, beautiful week. If you enjoyed this episode, there are more tips, tricks, and fun ways to bring in money in my weekly newsletter. Sign up and get all the juicy details every single Monday.